It started as an ordinary day at Crestwood High. Excited whispers filled the corridors as students buzzed about the upcoming field trip. Ms. Harris, the history teacher, had promised an unforgettable experience, a visit to the mysterious Blackwood Mansion, a place shrouded in legends and untold stories. "What's the deal with this mansion?" Jake asked, eyeing the printed permission slip skeptically. "It's supposed to be haunted," Lily replied, her eyes gleaming with a mix of curiosity and dread. "They say the original owners vanished without a trace." As the group boarded the bus, a sense of unease settled over them, like a dark cloud that couldn't be shaken off. The mansion loomed ahead, its Gothic architecture cutting a menacing silhouette against the setting sun. The air was thick with anticipation, every creak and rustle amplifying the tension. The bus rolled to a stop, and the students filed out, their eyes wide with apprehension. The mansion stood before them, its windows darkened, and ivy creeping up its walls like skeletal fingers. The gate creaked open, and Ms. Harris led them inside. "Remember, stay together," she warned, her voice barely masking her own unease. "This place has a lot of history, but it's still just an old house." The foyer was grand, with chandeliers that once sparkled, now dull and lifeless. Cobwebs hung like shrouds, and a musty smell permeated the air. As they ventured deeper, strange noises echoed through the hall's whispers, faint and unintelligible, as if the walls themselves were trying to speak. In the dining room, a long table was set with tarnished silverware and decaying centerpieces. Ms. Harris began recounting the mansion's history, but her voice seemed distant, almost drowned out by an unseen presence. "Legend has it that the Blackwood family hosted a lavish banquet here, and that night, they vanished," she said. "Some say their spirits never left." Suddenly, the air grew cold, and the student's breath turned to mist. The temperature drop was immediate and unnatural, sending shivers down their spines. "Did you feel that?" Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Before anyone could respond, the chandeliers flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. A ghostly figure appeared at the far end of the table, its eyes hollow and its mouth twisted in a silent scream. Panic set in, and the students scrambled to leave the room. But the mansion seemed to have a mind of its own, its halls twisting and turning, trapping them within its malevolent embrace. Doors that were once open slammed shut, and windows that promised escape were now impenetrable. "We need to find another way out," Jake said, his voice trembling. They stumbled upon a hidden staircase that led to the basement. The air grew even colder, and the whispers grew louder, more urgent. The basement was a labyrinth of stone and darkness, the walls lined with old portraits whose eyes seemed to follow them. As they ventured deeper, they discovered a locked door. Jake managed to force it open, revealing a chamber with ancient symbols etched into the walls. In the center lay a book, bound in leather and covered in dust. Curiosity got the better of them, and Lily approached the book. As she opened it, a gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing their flashlights. The room was plunged into darkness, save for the faint glow of the symbols on the walls. The book contained a chilling revelation. The Blackwood family had dabbled in dark rituals, seeking immortality. But their experiments had gone horribly wrong, trapping their souls within the mansion. The whispers grew louder, now unmistakably the voices of the Blackwoods, pleading for release. "We have to destroy the book," Lily said, her voice shaking. "It's the only way to free them." With trembling hands, Jake tore the book apart, the pages disintegrating into ash. The ground shook, and the walls seemed to close in on them. The ghostly figure reappeared, now more terrifying than ever. "Thank you," it whispered, its voice a haunting echo. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the room, and the students felt themselves being pulled away, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. When they awoke, they were back in the bus, parked outside the now empty lot where the mansion once stood. The sun was rising, casting a warm glow over the landscape. But the memory of that night lingered, a dark secret they would carry forever. As they returned to Crestwood High, Miss Harris gathered them in the library, her face pale and her eyes haunted. "We must never speak of this," she said. "Some secrets are better left buried." And so, the students of Crestwood High carried the weight of their encounter with them, a reminder that some places are haunted not by spirits, but by the darkness that lurks within. The students returned to their normal routines, but the memories of Blackwood Mansion haunted them. At night, they dreamed of spectral figures and echoing whispers. Even in the daylight, shadows seemed to follow them, flickering at the edge of their vision. Jake, Lily, Sarah, and a few others formed a pact to never speak of the events, but the silence weighed heavily on them. They met in secret, sharing their nightmares and the strange occurrences they couldn't explain. "We have to find out what really happened," Jake insisted. "We need to know if we truly ended it." Driven by a need for closure, the group decided to return to the site of the mansion. They planned a night visit, hoping to find some answers. Under the cover of darkness, they slipped away and made their way back to the cursed grounds. What greeted them was an empty field, overgrown and desolate. The mansion had disappeared without a trace, as if it had never existed. But the air was still thick with an unsettling presence, and the ground seemed to hum with residual energy. "I don't like this," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "It's like it's waiting for us." As they explored the field, they stumbled upon a hidden entrance and old cellar door, half buried and almost invisible among the weeds. With a sense of foreboding, they pried it open and descended into the darkness. The cellar was a maze of tunnels and hidden chambers, each one more eerie than the last. The walls were covered in ancient runes and symbols, glowing faintly in the dark. They found remnants of the Blackwood family's experiments, vials of strange liquids, jars containing unidentifiable substances, and tattered journals filled with cryptic writings. In the deepest chamber, they discovered a ritual altar, surrounded by candles that flickered to life as they approached. The air grew colder, and the whispers returned, louder and more insistent than before. "We're not alone," Lily whispered, her eyes darting around the room. Suddenly, the candles went out, plunging them into darkness. A chilling voice echoed through the chamber, sending shivers down their spines. "You shouldn't have come back." The ghostly figure of the Blackwood patriarch appeared before them, his eyes filled with malevolence. He raised his hand, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. The group huddled together, their hearts pounding in terror. "You cannot escape," the ghostly figure intoned. "The curse binds you to this place." Jake, desperate to end the nightmare, grabbed one of the journals and began to read aloud from its pages. The words seemed to resonate with the very walls of the chamber, causing the runes to glow brighter. A powerful force erupted from the altar, enveloping the group in a blinding light. The ghostly figure let out an anguished scream, and the chamber shook with a violent tremor. As the light faded, they found themselves standing in a field once more, the cellar door sealed shut behind them. The sun was rising, casting a warm glow over the landscape. The Blackwood Mansion was gone, and the oppressive presence had lifted. But something had changed. The group felt a lingering connection to the mansion, a bond that couldn't be broken. They knew that while they had escaped the physical confines of the curse, its shadow would always loom over them. Years passed, and they moved on with their lives, but the memories of that night remained etched in their minds. They never spoke of it again, but they couldn't escape the feeling that the mansion's dark secrets were still out there, waiting for someone else to uncover them.